Okay, we're live. Well, we're not
All
live,
right.
but you know.
Welcome to
So,
the stream.
you haven't started the stream.
No, I know. It started now.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Okay.
This game
What
is called
are we looking
Poker.
at?
I kind of already, I feel like I know the mistakes that I made, but I just want to be reinforced. You know, like I want a bit of
Okay, so
a
we're looking for reinforcement
yeah.
on
So
composition and how to play monkey in it and what your big mistakes are.
yeah, my
Should we
monkey
should we just
specifically.
like should we just like go like quickly and get like a sort of like good sort of starting point? Okay. Monkey, what are you actually let me change that color real quick because
Isolate
that
the
is
backline. Once my
isolate.
backline is safe, jump their backline, get a kill. I should be coordinating with Koto. And I mean, to be fair, I should be coordinating with everybody because it could be a 5-man dive, but especially against Reinhardt, he's so slow and immobile that as soon as his backline gets disconnected, you just jump on them and split the whole team in two.
Absolutely.
I know this. I just didn't do it, unfortunately.
Okay. Is there an opportunity for you to go for a Reaper?
I mean, if the Baptiste is alive, not really, because he can just throw Immortality.
Okay, absolutely. Let's say you spot Reaper without personal and you have your bubble and you might already have a pick on like BAP. Can you then go for the Reaper?
If he doesn't have Wraith, there isn't any reason to say no, we can't jump on the Reaper. I mean, Lucio would be
Absolutely.
better.
If you have a absolutely, but the Lucia might not be an opportunity. Let's say Reaper has no Wraith and you have your bubble. What could you do when diving him that would really screw with him?
Um, Drop Bubble and Bubble Dance.
Exactly. Like if you drop Bubble on the edge of your dive onto the
Yeah,
Reaper, and he has no Wraith, and you're Bubble dancing, you very quickly deplete this Reaper's health to a point where he's gonna be very afraid of doing it. Obviously, you have to time it so that he doesn't self heal on you because you are a big target.
yeah.
Okay. Um, Primal, not really a whole lot. You can use it very aggressively. You can use it very personally. You don't really want to combine it with anything. It doesn't make sense to use Primal and Kitsune, obviously, very much. Like you could, but in theory, honestly, just having more bubbles and having like a faster depletion of ammunition is good enough. You're probably better without Primal in Kitsune, is what I'd gauge it as.
Yeah,
Um, okay,
because then people are going to be knocked away from the Kitsune as well.
absolutely. As soon as they have Reinhardt, as soon as you like see this, like the thing is their composition, they win very heavily in this space
Go into an
around
open space. Go into open space gets a
yeah.
point.
I was gonna say like what you wanna do is like you wanna play the positions where this is gonna be very difficult for them to do. Because if if you have Lucio, so you have speed, and if you always just rotate around like over here, if they like then run to you here, like the Reinhardt pushes up into this space, that leaves an opportunity for you to dive the backline in space that is relevant for your composition. But if you're just playing in here, it's going to be very difficult for you to isolate anything over here, and the Reinhardt will just double you into you and start doing a lot of damage, and then he's going to run you over. So this is going to be very difficult for you as a player and as a team. So playing around these positions, high ground, cover, you can rotate a lot. Like I feel like a lot of the time players don't really realize because we're so used to think, okay, this is our side and this is their side. But if enemy is playing in here, all of them, this is just as much your space right now as this is, right? It's free for the taking for the fight, right? In fact, all of this is free for the taking because there's no one here. So that's the first sort of issue. I would say do a little bit of initial poke, realize there's a Reinhardt. Reinhardt is pushing up. Just go like, okay, back out, rotate. Or just make the call, rotate point, rotate point. since I assume you do want to get a little bit of the how do we actually get our team to do this as well. See, already here, the massive issue is the fact that Ryan is in swing range
Yeah.
of you. As a Winston, it is 90% of the time, especially this early in a fight, a massive issue if this Reinhardt is able to actually go for you, especially in a really coordinated environment where you can just back off as a team. Now you have the back line. Unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult for your team to help you. Okay. Tuxin is a monster, gets 2 picks. Okay. Yeah. So I like the fact that we short jump. Looks like you've picked that up a little bit. I do not so much like the fact that we just jump into a full HP Reaper that has
Yeah.
supports with him. That fact I don't like too much, especially since there wasn't a whole lot of momentum for you right now as a team. You didn't have like a lot of ability to just collapse on them. Don't have the positioning or the resources for that. The thing about Brawl is that Brawl the Brawl wants to close the distance to you, and if they can close the distance to you with all of their resources, then they win basically on top of you. You want to dive them with all of your resources, but your power spike is again, it's very much like as long as the fight is going on, and the fight is going on as long as they can shoot you. It doesn't. You don't have to be very like if they're shooting you or poking you, and we're in the sort of like pre/mid fight. Your resources look like this. They're like starting somewhere here. Then you're maybe forced to use your bubble in like not a dive, but your bubble in like a normal position. It goes down, and then maybe your Lucio is forced to use amp heals. It goes further down. So the thing is, like when you all decide to dive a target, you have a power spike, but how high that power spike goes depends on like if you have all your resources. So like you stack on on like a position like if we take it from above real quick, you stack on a position like this. You have all of your resources, and then you dive like the Reinhardt goes in here or wherever the Reinhardt goes. There's let's just say a Lucio here. Your power spike looks a lot more like this. And then as after the dive, you've committed every single like resources. You've committed amp heals or amp speed. You've probably committed like a Kitsune cleanse. You've probably committed Wraith. You've probably committed all of your charge on Sojourn. You've committed dash and bubble or like dive and bubble. But that's fine because you've committed all of that to get a thing. So essentially, Brawl, the name of the game on Brawl is just to survive this spike. The name of the game on Dive is to not lose resources so that we can't spike. Okay. And we were not in a position to spike here at all. So we've committed the last sort of resources in the tank, but those resources were nowhere near enough to get anything to happen. So we just went in, and Brawl is like, all right, cool. We've left the resources, and we take the picks now. Getting a little bit of macro on that one now. So you see all of this, like the more, especially your squishies and yourself are getting poked out like this, it's gonna take longer before you're all in a position to dive. And if you are forced to commit any resources at this point, be it Kiriko E, Lucio E, your E, Reaper Shift, anything like that that is like now on a cooldown because of poke or bad rotations together is resources you don't have when you're closer to the point and you're ready to make a or force a dive. gonna say we just rotate main. If I'm a main tank and I'm looking a little bit, like I know I can hear that people are here and I can see people are here. So if I'm a main tank here, what do you think I would make in terms of a call right now in order to just win in macro?
Rotate point.
Okay, why?
Let me think. Because
Okay.
it forces them to use resources to get to us.
It certainly forces them to rotate. I would say they don't. It doesn't force them to use resources currently because they don't need to speed or anything, and they're all sort of very grouped up and they can just move to point. Why might it be a good idea to force them to get to point into a more brawly position?
Because the Reinhardt has to leave their BAP alone in the backline.
Okay, so I was gonna say exactly. I was gonna say exactly. We don't dive the point because then we've used the resources already, and we don't just dive into this because this will just get us killed as well. We simply just call the point, like rotate to point, maybe even like here, so that we have a little bit of cover for our squishies. That probably forces the Ryan to think we're gonna go and brawl, and then we have during this we've scouted a little bit and spotted a BAB, and then we commit a dive onto the BAB. That is how it should look like. This idea of running into brawl head first is never gonna work. Maybe at lower elos you can force like a pick because someone is like greedy, like a Lucio that is greedy on wall riding and doesn't respect it. But like in higher elos, where you're hopefully going, that will never work. To be fair, it's not bad. It's not a bad dive, especially if you've called it. My biggest issue is that we kind of have very little help on this. We get more help, and we haven't forced anything. They're still very, very close to each other, and they have options to survive this. Going to just take it. Very brawly fight, and if you're forcing a brawly fight against brawl, it kind of makes sense that the brawl comp will probably win that.
No.
Yeah. This is a case of, as I always say, play smarter, not harder. Okay. And I was gonna say, because I feel like what you also need is uh like this idea of picking up the game as a tank player, taking the lead, right? It can be difficult because it's a lot of thinking and it's a lot of communication and it takes a long time. So how do you effectively communicate this with a team? What I would say is you don't have to explain every step of the plan. It just has to happen. So we try to do a reduction as much as possible. So in the scenario from before, what I would have done is follow your monkey, stack on your monkey until you're in this position, find the dive, and then call dive BAP. Instead of like, we're gonna rotate point and force them to come to point, and when they come to us, then we find a squishy in the backline and dive it. That takes too long. Especially if you have to think about it beforehand and then propagate it for your team so that it's a possibility for your team to execute this. That takes way too long. Just essentially, you figure out what needs to happen, and then you break them up into the simplest steps. And you never want a plan to take too long to explain. Just stack on monkey over by here. Okay, use this cover. Okay, dive back. That's simple. Doesn't have to. They don't need to know. They don't need to understand why that's a good play because you've already done the thinking for the team. You just need them to come and help you do it.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. A little bit of thought process on communication. Mm-hmm.
I think at this point we were just really not sure what to do.
Yeah, it's difficult because at this point you're probably thinking, oh, they're just it's like a team diff and everything, and none of you have really spotted the fact that you're probably just using like a composition wrong, and this is why you're losing. Like it seems like, oh, it's gonna be impossible to win against these guys, but in reality, it's such a tiny gameplay adjustment, and you'll probably start seeing more results. But that can be very difficult to see when all you know is that you've spent the last like 5 minutes in spawn, or 3 minutes, but
I was at this point calling for people to come rotate, but I was like, we should go high, 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 we should go high. And then we just moved forward, and then they popped up Matrix. And then
yeah,
Thompson obviously gets killed after Matt says don't peek it. And then I overextend. I should have just stayed in Kitsune.
yeah, and also I know it's last fight, but again, it seems a lot like to me that at this point we've sort of given up on proper gameplay. We've given up on the idea of like finding opportunity because we dive like the main squad and just like cleave, and it's like miraculously maybe my cleave damage will get someone low enough that one of my supports or DPS gets like a tap on them and they die. Like we just hope something's gonna happen here, instead of like playing correctly. And I would always say, especially in overtime, it is much more important to play methodically than it is to play for like a stress factor. Like don't stress the play. Is very important, right? Although I will say this is probably just a unfortunate scenario for you guys. Yeah, that's okay. This one might actually be a decent one to go over as a team.
Potentially Circuit Royale might be a good one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not Call of Duty.
I think people were too, from what I've seen, people were too tilted by then. But okay. Um.
Colosseo is not a good one though. I can confirm that much.
All right. Gotcha. Okay, they're playing a bit more of the
You can
same
definitely skip
composition
ahead
now.
because a lot of
Yeah, it's gonna take a long time.
yeah, we're discussing a lot. I think another thing that threw us off was that they swapped from the Reinhardt because a lot of our conversations was like, well, how do we deal with the Rhine? And then they swapped onto the Monkey at this point, and I was like, well,
The funny thing about Reinhardt is the way you deal with him is that you don't.
is you ignore him.
Well, you force the Reinhardt to play. Like you understand where a Reinhardt wants to play. You understand what a Reinhardt like. If a Reinhardt wants to force objective or force payload, you understand that. If a Reinhardt wants to force a brawl inside a room or something like that, it's very predictable what the Reinhardt will do because that's just kind of how you play Rein. So if you understand that, you can abuse that fact for like forcing the Rhine or like baiting the Rhine into making a play that then opens up the back line. And that will 90% of the time, especially on the last map, be the play. Um, because I understand, like, if you as a team think the Reinhardt is getting a lot of value, we need to just burn the Rhine, like break his shield or something like that. It's never gonna work. Like you've set yourself up to fail. Like you're gonna keep having like massive issues winning against the team then. Um, and you might just think, okay, maybe we should match Brawl or something like that because Brawl is just clearly a better composition. But in reality, Brawl isn't a better composition. You're just like you're like trying to cut down a tree with a banana. It's not gonna work. Um, for lack of a better metaphor for that.
No, that's a good metaphor.
So, what do you think when you play like Brawl or like Dive versus Dive? What do you think on this map is sort of going to be a key factor?
Either force out jump or just force out one of the dive like one of their players that's gonna dive. So if their Reaper uses TP or their monkey jumps in.
Okay, so looking for opportunities on backline targets is definitely a thing. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult to find an opportunity because if you take an opportunity, that also opens an opportunity.
That's what I was trying to say. It's like if you force out the monkey, like if the monkey doesn't have jump or monkey doesn't have bubble, well then
Hmm.
I'm no longer scared that that my backline is gonna get dived while I'm not there. So I can just like I'm just gonna jump into their backline when either the Reaper is dead or the Reaper doesn't have Wraith or something. If I jump in with my Reaper and they've got no sort of peel, like their Reaper doesn't have self peel or they don't have a bubble to protect them, then what is their backline gonna do against 550 HP plus Reaper?
Biggest thing I would say is if you can get yourself and your team. So like the space you're fighting for is kind of this space, and the space you're coming for, like the space that you cannot go into this area and further beyond unless you have picks, right?
Yeah.
So how do we like sort of like against especially maybe teams that aren't prepared for this sort of gameplay? The way that you play upbeat and gain the edge against especially this elo is as a monkey and as a team you get to this sort of space, you take as much space around pillar, that's pillar, take space around pillar is the call, use cover. If you can get this space by just sitting here first and then using your bubble to stay here longer and get your reaper to this location and get your supports into the safe space of point slash inside, you get the better angles first. It's about getting those angles first. Because then all of a sudden it becomes a case of they have to push their team through this choke point into a Reaper, which is going to be incredibly difficult because the Reaper just pew 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 pew. And if the monkey goes for anything over here, well, guess what? That monkey isn't going to get a whole lot of help. So all of a sudden, this becomes very, very difficult for them to take unless they get a good poke pick or like anything like that, right? So the methodology I would say here is like as a team, play tempo. Like especially in the beginning of this, almost the faster you can play as a team on this matchup, the better. The only time where this scenario becomes different, which I always tell people, is especially on this map, if they're playing a pharmacy all of a sudden the play doesn't become to take this space because the Pharah is having a fucking like day in the shooting range from using the cover of the tower down to you guys, and you're gonna have not so great a time. You
You go
take
into
point
point.
then.
Yeah.
Exactly. And vice versa. Like there's another thing you can meet here. You meet a TP inside. How do you play then? Well, the same thing, except you take it a little bit more methodically. You try to put up extra angles and you try to deal with turrets, and you cannot enter against the Symmetra unless you have a pick. Like you need something needs to be the advantage, which might be a pick on like the Sym 12. Maybe someone is really low and it's an easy dive, and you've cleared turrets because if you push into turrets, you die. Okay, that's a whole lot of side steps for this map, but I feel like getting a little bit of macro detailing in is probably good. Uh, Z, like I would prefer if you were like as a team, you're a bit slow as a team. I also don't know why we have gunpoint. Especially the Reaper and the Lucio doesn't get much help here. We should ideally have the speed here. I can already tell that this is gonna be an extremely difficult fight for us because they have the opportunity of going here. We do not have the opportunity of going here. It's a bit aggressive from Lucio. It's gonna die from that. That's a throw. In all fairness, the enemy team hasn't really abused the fact much. So what I would try to do here is, since you only have Kiriko, is like use the cover of the point to get yourself closer so that if the opportunity persists, you can hold this space with bubble, and you can call out a target, and you can call push up to wall, and then use that as a little bit of a poking position, right? And then you can always, the thing is, like, getting that space and making it difficult for them to push in, you can always fall back and wait for them to like get in, and then counter dive in on their space taking, so to speak. That's always an option as well.
I get the feeling I'm about to jump on this, Lucia. Well, no, maybe not.
I was gonna say, like I said, use the space of like the cover of the space on the point to get yourself into a better position here. You are like right now, I would say it looks a lot like you're looking for a dive, but you are not in a position to be able to dive and live here. There is no living here. So as a team, the call here is called stabilize or play slow. And that just means don't peek, don't use resources, just move. Basically, just move. Rotate together into a safe space so that you can gain resources again. So as a tank, what you're saying is just play slow, stabilize, play slow. Just like reinforce that, and then that would be the call for you here, as a player. Because otherwise this happens.
Was it smart for me to, try and
No,
jump and protect?
no, because they were gonna die no matter what. There, because we didn't stop, we didn't decide to play slow. Like at that point, it's much better to just get a proper regroup and get resources back, and then try to force a misplay by them, and then abusing it with a dive, rather than it is to just like put yourself in. Because the thing is like not every fight is winnable. At some, like a lot of fights are just gonna be incredibly difficult for you to win as soon as certain things have happened. And in this scenario, they had gotten the right amount of space, they had the right amount of resources. We were scattered enough that it was going to be difficult for us to get anything like collectively done. Lucia wasn't there. It was just those factors that add up to, like, realistically, unless your Sojourn or Reaper just pop squishies, you're not gonna gain enough so that that's winnable. Realistically. I like the dive on the Sojourn. It was pretty good.
Do you think I should have chased?
I think you should have tried to land the dive better and then being a lot more aggressive on it.
Yeah, so I land too short, don't I?
You land a little bit too short,
Be
too
back
much
line.
S here. Too much S here basically. Another thing is, um as as this is happening, I would have probably just chased. Even like,
Yeah, I could have jumped over the top there.
yeah, like the thing is she is so isolated, it's possible. Realistically, if you call that you're not able to protect backline, Reaper and Kiriko both should be fairly safe unless they push. Um, Another thing is like they are super stable here. Like it's gonna be very difficult to force anything here. The only thing you can do, like as a team, um, getting angles is what's gonna make you win this fight because they're playing so stacked up here, right? So what's gonna get you the most is you're gonna try to pressure somewhere here, and then you get a Sojourn to pressure somewhere here. You get a Reaper to go maybe dabble in a little bit, you know? Like you need to basically do webbing. So the call here is scatter around, webbing, take angles on point. And then you're gonna try to see if you can burn that bubble, if you can force a squishy mistake, because the squishies are probably peaking a lot more than they should in this elo anyway. See if you can get that. Because just simply going in without ultimate or pick here is gonna result in you just losing your HP and dying. So we kind of we're like kind of in a coconut position where we need to crack the shell before we can enter.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not doing anything there either. I'm not in the effective range whatsoever. And then I just jump past and let my team die.
yeah, you would have lost this fight anyway. They pop ults. They've popped their beat and their overclock. And realistically, you're not gonna get much out of that.
I was really thrown off at this point as well because my brother the entire last fight just been banging on my door trying to get my attention.
Gotcha. So at this point, we're a little bit unfocused.
Yeah.
I
Because
can see that.
he has an obsession with if the how I said I've got a sticky note that says "Do not enter." So he sees
Mhm.
that and he goes, "It means that I'm allowed to bang on his door as much and as loud as I want."
That's little brothers for you.
And then, I mean, it's a huge pick from Toxin.
Massive pick. I would say in this scenario, it's okay to push the Reaper here, but he probably has his Wraith Form, and if he uses Wraith Form, it's very important to like kind of like accept that okay, we forced out that, because sticking to this Reaper in Wraith Form and he gets healed up is probably gonna mean that the team gets too much value. So I would say like if you go here, force out the Wraith Form,
And then ditch him.
and then ditch him because now you get more space, and then just like call another target, rush up on like a Kiriko instead. Because like at this point you're in an arms race right now for who can deplete the enemy faster at this point. Um and if you're just chasing him and you're not putting out damage because he's in Wraith form, it's like they're probably winning that arms race. Like at this point, ditch him. Figure out where do I go now. Alright. That works. Mostly just because again Toxin is an absolute beast on DPS, but
I've kind of got short jumps going now as well.
I was shocked you didn't know how to short jump, because I was like, okay, you need to learn this because it's gonna increase your damage like drastically to get short jumping down on point. So much more control. Also, like the closer you land to the target, the more damage you do, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so being able to aim it properly is a good thing.
I've seen you can do 175 damage now with a new Winston combo.
Yeah,
145 actually it might be.
and something like that. It's not too important. I never really cared much for the numbers. The breakpoints are much more important anyway.
I mean, if you land it perfectly with the charged up shot on a melee, you
Yeah,
you're putting them within 1 to 2 melee range either way, no matter which way you look at it. So that is like dangerously low for anybody. I mean, that is just a dangerous amount of damage to put onto any hero.
yeah,
Even you,
absolutely.
even
Forces them to cover, like it forces them away from space. Yeah, absolutely. We're kind of in a very favorable like situation here because um they are in the choke, so they have to push us,
I know this is what you're
which
saying.
so
Let them
th-
push in and blossom them.
yeah, like exactly, like we let them push in because we can just play like cover positions, and like as they push in, we have like two angles, whereas they are like forced to find an angle onto us. Like either they put their resources this way, or they put their resources this way, or they split them. But we can put all resources here. So like for us, if they just come in, let's say that they're even like slightly going this way, and you're sitting over here. All right, exposed backline. Now we collapse. Just play the like advantage. Like there's the biggest issue from a lot of people is that it's so tempting to like you see a lot of people like here, and you're like, go 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 go. But it's like the thing is like you really don't need to go. They have to make the play. They're the ones that are currently screwed, not you.
You're gonna be disappointed with this fight.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. The thing is, you do understand that um, fundamentally, there's one place the enemy will be going, and you don't have to speculate too much on what to do. You know where they're coming, and they need to be the ones forcing that play. So therefore, don't force anything. A big issue is that often people don't realize that they are in the better position. They're ahead in the race, and they don't need to sprint. They can just walk to conserve resources.
I think we said they've got Kitsune, so we blossom when they push him with it. And we hold the
Mm-hmm.
beat for blossom. I think that was our decision. And we're still just like,
You're even further ahead in this fight. You can take it very slowly.
and then we drop beat, which is fine. And then they pop Kitsune, which again I still felt like we're winning, but then we pop Kitsune as well and blossom. So then we ended up using like all three of the really powerful ults on this comp.
Yeah, we have definitely sort of like overinvested here, is what I'll say. But I wouldn't say you've done anything wrong. I would say in this fight, just take it really slowly, and like if you find yourself to be low, you can like use primal like on yourself. But even realistically, you're playing slow enough and enough cover that you don't get low, so that you have to use that because you're so advantageous in this fight. You already have the pick on the Reaper from the boop from Matt, and they have to push into you on two angles, whereas you can just sit from two angles and poke them. And even also, once the tank is cleared, you can collapse on squishies in the backline. You are like just so statistically in a favorable position to win this. Like you should never like dive versus dive. Like you should not come from here. Like you can send the Reaper here and then rest like here, but like if you do that, it's going to be so difficult. Whereas like if you're forcing the enemy to play here on this side of the point, you're the one coming in that has the ability to put angle here, an angle here, and an angle here, right? So that's much more difficult. But if you enter from this side, it's the ones on the point having that advantage.
Yeah, this one I was really hoping they were going to walk over the bridge so I could just try get an easy primal kill.
Yeah.
I tried to force something with the primal. I'm realizing that now, and there was just no need to try and force it.
No, don't force anything here. Again, let them push in, look for a dive. Like let the monkey go in, look for a really aggressive dive on the backline. Use the primal in order to like either secure a kill or to keep yourself alive. It's okay to like go inting once they've entered point on the backline. But don't do it before. Don't try to force anything with primal. Just punish them with primal and keep yourself alive with primal. Yeah, sort of. It's not too bad. Unfortunately, there has been a pop of beat here, which means that we're probably not gonna kill much with this, but we still have the ability to isolate really well with it. Yeah, I think we in general for this fight, what I would say is we pop primal too early. Um,
I was hoping because obviously Toxin died, so I was like, alright, if I primal into them, maybe I can just give us time to recover.
since it's the last fight, you kind of know that you can just hold on to primal until it's really important to use it. Because this will be the fight. So it's much more important to get the most value out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, and at this point we swap to Reinhardt, I guess. Oh no? Okay. I
Oh,
was like, I was wondering if you were just gonna like play Brawl here. It is easier to play Brawl, I on this map, but it's not better. I think since we've talked a little bit about sort of like uh how to deal with certain scenarios, dive versus dive, Brawl versus dive. I think we're gonna take an overview here, and I just want you to like, with your new information, put up like a sort of realistic plan for what to do here.
well, we're in an
Just,
open space. Reinhardt is already out of position. I get that. I mean, it's a four-man core, so they're probably still a little bit too close to Reinhardt to do anything. Because if we jump into that, then they've got four people all stacked up together. We need to isolate one person. So here, though, all they want to do is take point, and as soon
yep,
as they do, they're going to bunker. So we should
yep.
have taken point.
Um, I would say that putting yourself on point first here, as soon as you see like a Reinhardt, making the call to just rotate in here,
Yeah,
that gives you options because the Reinhardt will enter point. He will fundamentally enter this point, and that probably will give you an opportunity to find a pick. The thing is you can kind of like until you need anything to happen, you can just play like really slow and really cover. Like you can just, all right, they have a Reinhardt, go the other way, put yourself like on the edge of point, play back here, it's fine. Okay, Reinhardt is moving towards us now. That exposes the core. You jump over into a squishy over here. The Reaper can just like either TP or Wraith. The Lucio can wall ride. They're very safe. Sojourn is kind of like forced to play on a long angle somewhere. Otherwise, she's very having a hard time. Kiriko can even shift to you once you've decided to make that jump. All of a sudden, the Reinhardt is over here. Oh, whoopsie daisy, Reinhardt. You're not gonna get anything done over there. You like with the amount of movement abilities you have, you can so just abuse Reinhardt's effective play because it's very safe to say if you're a Reinhardt walking here and a bunch of you are playing over here, like it's very safe that Ryan is like, okay, I'm either gonna charge either one of these doors or like push up and try to like get something done there. Maybe in a higher elo, the Ryan will recognize that and just be triangle man here while everyone else takes space on point. I don't think we need to focus too much on that scenario yet because I feel like this team, even a 3.1, I think it was, right? They are not going to be smart enough for this. So like if you can win in the mental game, in the sort of like in the mind games, like you can just absolutely like bully teams like this because and then they will be in the position of, oh, it's like a team div, it's a composition div, like we're just getting rolled, we need to play like a different composition. They swap to a different composition and you instantly realize how to change your macro gameplay and you just abuse that then. And then like they're just gonna get tilted beyond all belief because they can simply not understand why they're losing. Okay. Now that they are bunkering, let's think back to Lijiang Tower.
create multiple crossfires. Also, this is still Lijiang Tower, by the way.
Yeah. Now
Eh,
that we're thinking back to Garden.
If you turn around and look up, you can see it still.
Yeah, no, I know they're all on the same map.
Okay.
They're all like on the like
Yeah, they're
up
all up
here.
here.
You can just fly to it.
I know. I was doing that earlier.
Yeah, and then the inside is also,
Yeah.
and it's the same for most of them. To be fair, also Ilias and
Ilios is all across the coast, isn't it?
yeah, Nepal is up the mountain. Like the big mountain in the background, it's just up
Yeah.
the mountain.
And then the shrine at the top. The temple.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
very useful VOD information here.
Very, very useful. I was gonna say I appreciate this kind of like random like information, and I can give you a lot of random information about Overwatch, but I probably already know it because yeah, I just know stuff. Okay, so we're trying to do that.
I don't think at this point, if I could go back in time and I could like tell myself like create a crossfire now, I would, but I don't think that's something that we're doing now. Koto is
The
in though.
the thing is this isn't bad to be fair.
No,
That's
so I
okay.
should be in there as well.
Or like here, and then like you can have Koto here, you here with like Toxin. You can have your supports fairly safe. Your supports are able to like push this way and help the fight from another angle. It's not too bad. I think you just need to, as a main tank, tell your team this, and then also the team should also know this. To be fair, this I think exactly all of what I've been saying here is probably a good idea for the team to.
I caught that Lucio. Why did I not just chase him? Oh, it's because we called BAP. We're like, we'll dive into this BAP, and I tag it back onto Lucio.
This is what will happen if you push into a grouped up team
Yeah,
on a closed space point or any kind of closed space, which is just like enclosed, and you don't have an advantage. If you don't have an advantage, this will happen every single time.
yeah,
Unless ultimates are in play, but that's also an advantage. Or
yeah, yeah,
certain compositional things, like certain things like brawl, can kind of just play very stacked and go on you.
yeah. At this point, I had no idea what to call.
What do you think you should call here?
Well, we're like go left side so we don't have to walk right into this Reinhardt's face, and then he's pinned over there, so we're like, and then Matt was like, no, we can just rotate point now. We can just rotate point. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. Go, everybody, go point. So obviously
Okay.
rotate through the outside.
We're a bit slow on that call because they can intercept us now.
Yeah,
But the call isn't bad per se. I just think it comes in a bit too slow. Especially because when they were here, that was so free. That should have been the initial thought, and it took a bit too long. But when they start moving towards you now, you're forced to use resources to rotate to point, which means that when you're at point, you have no resources. So either way, even if you get to point, they're just gonna take a really scrappy fight and win because you've used most of your resources at this point. Just
yeah.
try to live, right? So um, to be fair, we nearly get the cap. Oh wait, we do get the cap. Oh no, it's a train wreck. Yay, 4%. Hell yeah. We've done what we needed to do.
I mean, that is technically 8% because that's 4% denied from them as well.
We still need to go to 100, so that's 4%.
Yeah, that's true. And then we do the exact same thing here.
Okay. Um, food for thought.
Go over the high ground. Is that what you're gonna
Because
say?
it's going to be difficult to get an opening here. Like I don't think I think you go high ground here, right? Obviously you go high ground here, but just to put it into like perspective, making the call to speed through this entire point, run all the way behind point and into point, is still a better call than pushing through this with no ultimates and no picks. Still a better call, even though it makes no sense to go all that way. It makes no sense to wrap all the way around and then into point, but that would still be a better call than to try and push through this with no ultimates and no picks.
Yeah.
But absolutely, yeah. Because if you get to this high ground, you can just like much better. Like the Reinhardt, first of all, is not going to be effective because he can't swing on you. He can't reach that point. You have the ability. You have a high ground, which is always good. You have the ability to poke. You have the ability to dive. You can look like everyone can reach everything. Lucio can wall ride this way or speed you this way, and Kiriko can just TP obviously. Reaper can just TP obviously. You have so many options here, and even if they start going here, you can also just make the call to like speed everyone this way and like try to play tempo without them realizing. Point is, there is so many options. Or like even like better scenario, you have your entire like people up here and you're playing the high ground. You get to pick on a squishy because you now have angles to the squishies. You can actually access the team, or you force them out of here. Like you force them away. You force them back. Anyway, just a bit of food for thought. No, 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 no. This ain't gonna work, buddy. This is why I always tell people that you don't need aim to be good at Overwatch because you can gain so much in just like who is Capek? Anyway, um, you can gain so much just in like macro.
Yeah. I mean, macro takes you all the way to masters. Look, I did know go high ground.
Good. This is much better. No guarantee it's gonna work, but at least we're starting the right place.
Is that Bopsy start position?
No, not really.
Damn. Okay.
Especially because, oh, okay, replay viewer things. I guess that just cut everything away. Nice.
Now fly down to me. No, Mick.
Hmm?
You're supposed to fly all the way down from there.
Oh, I didn't know.
No, you should have known.
Okay, this is the fight where you int. And this is the fight where you go high ground now, or is that no?
No.
This is the fight where you int.
Final fight is high ground. Probably skip 20 seconds and you'll get there.
Absolutely. Yeah, this one.
So needed to wait for an opening or an advantage is what you're going to say. So probably just like pop overclock while we've got a very good sight line. Or Kitsune rush into them while they're like all there.
Yeah, I was gonna say like using an like ultimate is gonna be a much better opening for you guys here rather than just like
Just
try
dive.
to force in neutral dive because like neutral diving this Baptiste. I mean, he has lamp, he has his shift probably, and also all of a sudden you're out of your Lucio's effective range. Kiriko might even be having a hard time to help you. You're not gonna get much pressure because you're gonna be having a shield that can just move back. There's gonna be a very difficult time for you to get help on this. Like you diving, and also when you're here, they just turn on you, doesn't really have to turn on you, but could turn on you and charge you even at that point because he can very safely just charge you there. Reaper can very safely go there. You are basically dead.
Yep. I'm not
As
basically
you,
dead. I am dead.
I want you to look at the five of them, like in the line, right? Look at what each one of them do when you jump, like their orientation mostly. Okay, so at this point, the Reinhardt and the Reaper is like, all right, we'll deal with the backline, which they do, I might mention. And the Sojourn and the Bab and the Lucio is like, all right, well, that monkey is fucked. Also, And at this point, there's not much more to talk about because you guys are losing here. Right. Any questions?
No.
All right. Well, I hope
Oh wait,
that
yes,
has
I do.
helped a little bit.
I do have
Okay.
some
Yeah.
questions. Okay, so question number one: sticky notes. That is not the question. I'm sure you can, figure out the context in which I'm saying the word sticky notes there.
I do. I do understand what is coming up, and we will do it.
So like, which sticky notes are going?
Mm-hmm.
We've got here. What is this? Why have I got a sticky? Oh wait. Oh, that's not a sticky
Absolutely.
note. And that's in my pencil case. Okay. Anyway, um, so we've got range in all caps. Like reminding myself use the effective range.
Yeah, that's tailored to Saya mostly, but yeah, and also I guess Sigma and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I guess any tank where I play against Reinhardt, so I don't just walk into his hammer.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
focus
that's
squishies,
good. Mm-hmm.
positioning, rotations, map play.
Yeah.
Use cooldowns more. That one was directed at Sigma.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, actually, those last two were directed at Sigma. And then use bubble to gain early charge for poke and chain bubbles.
Okay. I'm assuming we're gonna put Saya a bit on hold.
I
Am
think
I
so, yeah.
am I correct here? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So we can probably get rid of some of that stuff.
Okay, I'll take those two off then.
And then I think positioning, rotations, and map play is still vital, but I don't know how to exactly like, other than when you look at positioning, rotations, and map play, you should think back to what I've just been talking a lot about.
Yeah.
Does that? I don't know if there's a buzzword you can put there that'll remind you this is what makes it.
Yeah.
Um, I think you can remove focus squishies. I feel like that has improved a lot. Like you're not actively trying to set up a dive on Reinhardt anymore. You just happen to get into a brawly position with Reinhardt from not using rotations properly and using like positions properly, if that makes sense.
I think what I'm
But you
gonna do
aren't
is
trying to dive the Reinhardt anymore, are you really? Not really.
I'm gonna remove positioning, rotations, map play, and I'm just gonna
Hmm.
put positions in all caps. Positioning in all caps or something, or like
Hmm.
position or something, because I feel like I kind of know what that'll mean.
As long as when you look at that node, you associate it with the right things, you can write whatever. I don't really mind. Um.
Okay.
Yep. Um. Yeah, and I was gonna say you can remove the squishy thing.
Yeah.
That is we've started to incorporate that into like muscle memory that we're trying to look for a squishy.
I did find an article
Um,
proving your instinctive active brain thing, by the way.
hmm?
I found an article proving the instinctive to active brain theory that you use for coaching.
Yeah, I have an entire video about it if you want to watch it. But it's a bit of a shall we call it literary intense video, but you can have it if you want.
Yeah, send it
Um,
my way. I might watch it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, absolutely. Okay, then what should we have more? I think sort of what we went over today is the most important. Um,
I feel like I need to go slower or like sat up more.
yeah,
Should I just
know when you can play slow and know when you can play fast. Tempo is probably the right word.
Yeah, I'll put tempo down.
Don't force things if you can't. Or like don't force, punish is what I would put. If you're in the favorable position, punish their attempt rather than try to force an attempt yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you understand exactly the points that I'm on about here, like the scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, call-outs make them clearer.
Yeah. Shorthand callouts. Uh, Action over explanation. Don't explain stuff. Just give short instructions as to what to do.
Yeah.
Stack on monkey. Chill. Dive this target. The explanation doesn't have to be that we're trying to force the Rhine to brawl us and then get collapsing the backline. They don't need to know that because that will just naturally happen if you tell them what to do. And then that's gonna take your tank play to that level, like carry tank, where you're like, I don't understand why, but this tank is just doing so much and it's making it so much easier for the team. Because realistically, that's what you're trying to do as a tank, is like you're trying to make it easier. And a lot of DPS just doesn't understand how much like a good tank can affect their ability to get picks. Um, but that doesn't matter.
Because that's what
You
heroes
just
do.
exactly, like you just need to be that sort of like invisible buff to the team in being smart.
I feel like, okay, all Overwatch is support and DPS. Like, support the tank so the tank can support the DPS so the DPS can pop off. Like, I get that's not true because, like, in the Zarya meta, it was pretty much all
I was
about
gonna
the
say
tanks.
there's a bit more to it than that, but that scenario that you just explained does happen. That
Oh,
does
a lot.
happen, like a lot. But it's also there's too much context. The way I like to think about it a lot more is like if you've ever been into chess, is that Overwatch is a lot like chess, but obviously a little bit more action and like reaction time and all that
Yeah.
based, right? But it's a lot like chess, where it's like about like a good opening. It's about defending the right pieces and threatening the right pieces. It's about good positions. It's about developing your board and then eventually figuring out how can I lead this into a checkmate. That is it is a lot more like a chess game, and I think a lot of people is like have this idea that uh, I can't be good at this because I don't have accuracy or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, but the amount you can gain not in accuracy, but just by like assuming that you can hit some point blank shots, right? Like I'm not saying you're gonna hit GM on Widow without aim because you're not, but um, there are heroes you can pick as well that will negate the fact that you don't have aim, and you can get really far with these heroes. And a lot of it is like um, just honestly just game sense. Like a lot of I've had like some people down in like silver. Like I unironically know like a silver guy slash gold guy that has better aim than me, and he doesn't understand how I can have hit like 2900 with Genji. He's like, "How do you hit 2900? I have better aim than you." And then I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not winning in aim. I'm winning in understanding when to blade, when to pressure high ground, when to commit dash to high ground, when to just not do that. I'm winning in knowing when the Saya is gonna grab and pressing my E and deflecting it." And it's like all of these small things add up to the fact where me not being able to land a shot to save my life doesn't matter too much. Yeah, no, I'm not hitting GM, or well, I'm not even hitting Diamond because I didn't. But a lot of the advantage isn't in the aim.
Yeah.
The aim is nice. The aim complements very nicely your game sense. Very nicely. Because then you can take it to another level.
I mean, I
But
I do literally have a friend the other day who said that the reason that they weren't in Masters yet is because their aim wasn't good enough. And then me and Chimp, the guy that I was telling you about earlier,
Mhm.
who's very chill, I said to him, I was like, well, we kind of tag teamed him. We were like, no, that's not how that works. Game sense takes you to Masters. if your game sense alone can take you to masters with like very minimalistic, poor to minimalistic aim. It's like the reason that you're not in masters yet is not because your aim isn't good enough.
Yeah,
It's
depends a
because
bit on like what he plays. Absolutely,
supports.
but support, yeah, like you can go to masters in support with Lucio and Kiriko and Mercy with
He is a
terrible
flexible.
aim.
He is a flexible. In fairness, he plays Ana, Bap, Zan. So it's like in fairness,
Sen is probably a bit more difficult, but like
not
Bap
much
and
though.
Anna, absolutely. But Anna and Bap, absolutely. Assuming you can hit your teammates and you know how to anti-nade properly, like you don't have to have amazing aim though.
I mean, those
Like
are
okay,
like the two more besides Zan, like the two more aimy kinds of supports. But
what I would say though is like assuming that he's somewhere in Diamond right now, right?
yeah,
Yeah, he has the aim to like if you're in Diamond and playing Anna and you're not like just throwing games, you have the aim to go to Masters. It's just game sense oriented.
I was
But
like, I'd like to VOD review you because I want a bit of experience in coaching. So I was like, if you want to just send me a code, and it was like, yeah, I will, but I don't play support. I was like, well, then that's why you're not in Masters if you're not playing the role. But
yeah, some people have this idea that like I don't want to play because I want to go higher, but if I play, I might lose. So it's like
I don't think I don't.
it's like
It wasn't like a case of he doesn't want to play at all in case he loses games. I think it was a case of he doesn't want to play support. He plays DPS in comp and then he scrims on support.
gotcha.
And it's like, well, but you're not going to get masters if you don't play it in comp, and you're not going to improve if you don't put hours into it either. I was like, you're not good, because I think he said he's just been one trick in cast to improve his aim. I was like, well, that's not working though, is it? Because why would it? Like you being able to shoot on cast doesn't make you be able to shoot on Baptiste because Baptiste is a triple shot. And Anna, yes, she has a hit scan when she's aiming down her scope, but like that doesn't help you with a hip fire aim. She has got 3 completely unique travel speeds.
I've
For
coached quite a lot of Diamond Annas, and I can tell one thing that is always the biggest reason why Annas aren't climbing from Diamond to Masters. It's a lack of use of aggressive nades, like either just simply not using the ability or using it to heal
heal.
themselves or healing a low target because they feel very like, oh shit, I need to heal that right now, and they press the E on them. And I'm always like, realistically, why didn't you just scope in and shoot that target? You have a full mag. You could have just healed him. And they were like, no, but I felt like it had to go first. And I was like, your primary fire is fast. You do heal them fast enough. You're not actually healing them faster. You give them heal boost, and then you give like AOE healing, right? And there are scenarios where using your nade for healing is absolutely vital. But like 90% of like even 99% of all your nades should be off angle anti-nades, off angle aggressive nades. And then the second thing is the fact that the sleep dart is being used to sleep anything and everything they can sleep, rather than sleeping stuff that makes sense or saving it for themselves, especially in Overwatch 2. Using the sleep dart not aggressively. It's like every single time you look at a point, like let's say you're looking at a control center or something like that, and you're like trying to push in and you look for a sleep dart, it's like you shouldn't be looking for a sleep dart there. You should be looking for an anti-nade there because like the sleep
The
dart
sleep will
on
find
like
itself.
yeah, exactly. It's like also like if you sleep the Reinhardt on point, it's like okay, then he takes a little bit of damage from whatever, and he wakes up, and it doesn't matter. But if you land an anti-nade on the Reinhardt, chances are you also get whoever was behind the Reinhardt. That's why you use off angles, right? And then now they're anti-naded, and you can just basically go in and trade damage so effectively because they cannot heal it back up. Um, but you can, right? So that's a massive win factor. And then also, furthermore, when that annoying Genji that your tank isn't dealing with, or your other support isn't dealing with, or your DPS isn't dealing with, or that annoying monkey that your team just ignores, dives you, and you die, and it's your team's fault. You have a funny ability that makes him just sleep, and you just like, Winston's sleeping in backline, and then rotate to another position, and you're safe and you're fine. Those are like by far the biggest thing in Diamond is just like sleep dart and anti-nade are just used atrociously. The nanos are usually all right, but you know it depends on everyone.
Um, so the final thing, the final question that I've got
Mhm.
for you is so what is this that I've just found in my drawer? Oh, that's what I found. So what would you give me as a smart target?
A smart target.
Yeah.
Um,
Would you like me to remind you what a smart target is?
no, I do know what a smart target is.
Has to be measurable. You can't be like, you can't tell me that you want me to improve positioning because I can't measure that.
You kind of can, but I know what you mean. You have to get someone that understands it better to confirm whether or not this engage had the right positioning, and then you'd have to count it.
Yeah,
But it's like, yeah, it's also it's positioning is so dynamic. It's difficult.
yeah.
What I would say is we're gonna push the envelope for what a smart target can be a bit more.
Okay.
But I want you to use what we talked about today to increase the amount of picks you get from diving a backline that where you also live, basically. Like so like diving on that map, killing him, living,
And then
and then
diving another target
like just I don't even care if you win that fight. I just want you to like kill that BAP and be in a position
to
where
get
it's like
back out and live.
and live. Exactly. Like increase the number of times you have good initial dives. In not like scrappy stuff, just initial approach, especially initial isolated targets, uh finding them, getting to them, killing them. And I when I say kill them, I don't mean you don't have to get the final blow. Just like you dive them and the target has
Elim.
died. Elam, exactly. Live. Increase the amount of times that happens, and you can just go through like a gameplay and then count all of your initial dives and go like, and then you're gonna have to be a little bit like, is this successful or not? You have to judge that yourself sometimes a little bit because I do know it's sort of like vague, but that would be
So the smart
a
target that I'm going for here is still one that I'm gonna have to go through individual games and count.
unfortunately yes, because I cannot really give you another smart target that makes sense if you want to climb.
Okay.
Like
I
other
just
than
wanna.
just simply saying kill more stuff, die less, lol.
I mean, I was gonna say just increase elims, decrease deaths. Oh my god! What have I just done?
I mean, honestly, what I could say is I could. It sounds so. I'm so against this entire approach your college is forcing you to do, by the way. But what I could say is you could increase your KD ratio. Because if you do this properly, your KD ratio should technically increase. Like if you follow
That's
the
what I'm saying. And then like have an additional stat because I've got an additional stat column with my KPI sheets. So
okay.
have the additional stat being jump kills. Like it.
The thing is though, jump kill is only if you kill them with jump.
Oh, what does it not even like not the same way where accretion if you hit them and then they die.
Yeah, like no, the thing is like if you jump and then within the timer someone kills that target, it counts as a jump kill. But 99% of the time you do the initial damage with jump, right? And then you do a bunch of like primary fire, right? So you're not gonna get like an accurate stat at all from jump kills. Like that doesn't just mean that you've dived and killed them. So
Okay,
yeah, no. Um,
hold on. Before we go anywhere, let me just boot up Overwatch real quick. I'll see how long this is going to take because right now Battle.net's being cringe. All I'm thinking is though, smart target has to be like so I have to set how much I need to improve this by.
if you
So
can, if you like, the thing is like I think smart targets with context is the most important thing ever. So if you can sort of like put a note on your smart target for your KD ratio, like what is the method I've used to increase my KD ratio? Then I think it's a good idea. But like if you simply your smart target is just improve KD ratio, that doesn't explain what you have to do that. I've explained what you have to do that,
I know
but
I'm about to go do a vlog and discuss what my smart target will be there.
okay.
So currently my deaths per 10 on Monkey, oof, that is rough. 4.68, and then Elim's is 20.7.
Hmm.
Okay, so what should that be changing, and how fast should I be changing that?
Okay. We're gonna say in a week
Yeah.
because we're doing at least about a week. I feel like that's sort of like we do more sometimes, we do less, but at least a week, right? And you play over a week. So in a week, uh, the um the goal is to drag up elims per 10 by 2,
In a
and then
week?
in a week,
I've only got
and
4 hours on the character.
hey, don't worry about it. It elims per 10 has to be dragged up by 2, and despotin has to be either lower or not changed.
Okay.
So like either a better like a better despotin, or at least not a worse, just the same. And then 2, like that is a very realistic sort of like smart target. And I also feel like with smart targets, if we have to start discussing putting up smart targets for yourself, we also have to we have to figure out how much can you push the envelope in a week. So this is like the baseline. We're getting a baseline for the stuff, and then like if you completely obliterate that goal, right? Let's
I
say that
don't think I
happens.
will.
Then next time I have faith in yourself. To be fair, like elims per 10 is like
It's gonna. I
from
have to.
20.
What, you're telling me that I'm
You're
gonna have to
just
get 22.7 elims per 10?
just like 22. Just drag it up to 22.
Okay, okay. I mean, that's only 1.3 more. That's fine. I can do that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And if you can drag it up to 22.7, that's great in a week, and that's your focus. And the way you get there, honestly I feel like if you can make a good sort of project out of smart targets and like having contextual smart targets through coaching, where this is the target this is how we confirm that it has increased, but the method is also written as a comment, like to add context to your data, you honestly have something really great that you could probably represent to your college. And like you're starting to like not just find like use methods, you're starting to develop methods that could be very potentially useful for esports in general. um
Just out of curiosity, am I trying to raise my? Am I attempting to raise my overall stats for this season on Monkey to 22.7 or 22 per 10, or should I play a bunch of games on Monkey and then track these?
no, you're trying to increase the season. Like you're
Okay.
trying to increase your this season monkey played stats.
So not I shouldn't go through and count all my individual games that I play over the week and then work it out by like just putting it all
What?
into a calculator.
No. You're trying to increase like your total stats, which
Okay.
does make it a bit more difficult because I feel like you could probably play games for a week and have this standard, but because you've had worse standards before, it means that you have to play a little bit better, if that makes sense, right? Because there's like a low beginning point that drags that down quite heavily.
That's what I was thinking though, because like I'm gonna have to perform so much better. I mean, I guess if I just drown it out, like if I just have like a continuous stream of very good games on Monkey.
I think you're overshooting how difficult this will be. It's not a lot to increase. You just have to consistently get it like a little bit better, and you're there. And I feel like with the coaching today, especially on Monkey, you're set on the right path. You have a decent mindset about stuff. You're starting to pick up some of the shall we call the ropes for Overwatch, and you're learning. And I know it feels like you're not gaining anything, but your understanding of the game has increased drastically from the first time that I talked with you, and also like I see you making less mistakes. And it's just like at some point you're gonna break that barrier and you're gonna start seeing the return on investment. Um, you aren't seeing the return on investment yet. I'm seeing it definitely. Um, so I'm not afraid about the return. It will come. It will come.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm gonna end the recording now.